And a good Tuesday evening, everyone. It's the night shift tonight on It's Official, our weekly five-topic banter show featuring Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Express Bet. Jeff, the Triple Crown season's heating up. We've got a lot of prep races to talk about this week. It's a Kentucky Derby future wager bet that's going down. So the three-year-olds are high and very much so in our minds right now.
They are. It's dominating the North America programs now. Some of our best older horses are headed overseas. We'll follow them in Saudi Arabia and, of course, in Dubai. But right now, the three-year-olds are rising to the top in terms of the interest of thoroughbred horse racing here in the States. And there's a lot of separation still to come. Big race coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that in a minute. Look back at some of the performances from last week, and then we'll check in with your top 20 this week.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, after you get by the first 3 or 4 and then you eliminate the Bafferts for the Derby, then it can go pretty deep. We're going to include the Bafferts, obviously, on your list because it is a Triple Crown list, not a Derby list.
Yep.
But there are still a lot of movement there right now, and we're going to have a lot more, I think, in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and there's horses who are just jumping into the mix, and that's where we're going to start off with a horse in Southern California who's yet to hit the stakes ranks, but he's now 2 for 2 after a dominant win 3-4 weeks ago in Maiden Company. Maymun stretched out on the Super Bowl Sunday program at the Great Race Place, and he had to work hard from start to finish. Let's see what this potential superstar had to deal with. Let's take you through the first turn with Frank Miramati and then the finish of Maymun's allowance win.
And they're off. Imagination gets the first call. Maymun along the inside matches strides. American Hope, Thompson, and last call, London. Maymun speeds through and actually drifts right into his stablemate. Maymun, tough to handle, did not take that turn too well at all. He didn't do so in his debut either. Maymun and Imagination head and head. Imagination on the outside and Maymun at the rail come for the top of the stretch together. It's Imagination. Maymun has to dig in. Imagination runs by him at the 8th pole. Maymun fully extended. Coming back for more, but it's Imagination with the upper hand. Maymun on the inside is second, past the 16th pole. Maymun re-rallying now. It's going to get very close. Here's the line. Maymun found another gear and beat Imagination. American Hope, a distant third.
So, Jeff, what do we make of this? We expected Maymun to just roll. Imagination seems like a pretty nice 3-year-old, though. He won his 2-turn debut, won the stretch out last time out, and came back and gave his stablemate everything he wanted. Is Maymun as good as we thought, or was this a race that exposed him a little?
No, I think they're both pretty good. In fact, Imagination strikes me as kind of like a Wood Memorial type of horse, even though Bob doesn't usually send horses to New York for whatever reason. But if he hadn't run the stablemate in that same race, Maymun would have won that race by many, like 12 to 15. And the fact that he was able to come on and beat a seasoned horse, a horse that already had several races, to me was very impressive. Maymun has got a tremendous amount of natural talent. But before he ever ran, he was very green in the morning, and I wondered whether he would be professional enough to win his debut, even though he towered over the field on pure talent. He made a left-hand turn, leaving the gate, sprinting from the rail, still was able to overcome that and win. Then he saw what he did in a clubhouse turn. He tries to blow the turn. That usually eliminates the horse. He still, then after getting passed by a seasoned horse re-rallied, galloped out way in front. I mean, his problem is his own doing. I mean, he's got the talent. And if you ever want to go back and watch this Colts Breeze in the 2-year-old training sale, I mean, it was as impressive a breeze as you'll ever see. So the fact is, even though he's by Frosted, who is not what you'd call popular at stud, even though he was a good horse, Maymun has got the best of all the qualities of his mother and father. And now it's just a matter of how ambitious Bob wants to get and where he's going to go. I don't think he's going to take on Niso, so that would be counterproductive. But I think he's probably going to go somewhere, and I think Imagination will too. And the California contingent continues to be very impressive, or at least the Bob Baffert version of it. And this was outstanding, I thought, considering the trouble he caused himself.
Right. In Southern California, there's 2 races left, basically on the pre-Triple Crown Trail, that being the San Felipe and the Santa Anita Derby. Here's a look at the national schedule of Derby Preakness preps. The Preakness ones are in the tan color. The white are, traditional points races towards the Kentucky Derby and preps around the world, including the Saudi Derby and the UAE Derby. When we look at a horse like Maymun, he just ran here last weekend, so he's got to start February 11th. You got to think you get 5 weeks in between starts probably. So the soonest we could see him would be about the second week of March. There's no prep races March 16th. So the next time we could see Maymun, Louisiana Derby, a race Baffert sent horses to over the years. The Jeff Ruby on the synthetic, that's not going to happen. Then you look at the races like the Florida Derby, Arkansas Derby, and the big ones, Santa Anita, Bluegrass, Wood. Are those the kind of races you think we'll see Maymun in?
Yeah, no, the Louisiana Derby is a mile and what, 3/16? Is
That's
that what
correct.
it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know whether Bob would want to run this colt that far off just 2 starts, although timing is the perfect way. I don't think he'd send him to Tampa Bay Derby. That would be not likely. The Fountain of Youth, too soon.
Right.
I don't know. Timing isn't really all that great unless
it's got to be Arkansas Derby off of that list almost if he's going to hit the road, right?
You would think that would be logical, yes.
Yeah.
We give him plenty of time. Since he doesn't have to worry about the Derby, he could use that March 30th prep and then point for the Preakness if he wants. The timing would be good for that. So he's had 2 races now in a relatively short period of time. To me, that makes the most sense for this colt. And let Niso stay home and win the Santa Anita Derby.
The other option could be the Lexington Stakes because it just goes to a mile and a 16th, stretches him from a mile to a mile and a 16th. And that timing from the Lexington to the Preakness has been pretty effective for other horses in the past in recent years. Not horses that were banned from the Kentucky Derby because of their trainer, but by choice, horses have taken that Lexington to Preakness path and has been pretty successful. And that's kind of an easy step up in class for Maymun. So Arkansas Derby, we know Baffert loved to support that race. That would make a lot of sense. And he's had a ton of success there, but that would be the much tougher spot of the 2 next time out. If they want to give him a little bit more time, like you said, he's had 2 races close together. Wait for the Lexington and a mile and a 16th, and then that race springboard to perhaps to the Preakness. But Maymun, a prospect that we definitely have to keep our eye on the trail. Now, last week he may have been the star of stars on Super Bowl Sunday, but Saturday had 2 stakes races in the 3-year-old ranks. Let's start off with the Sam F. Davis Stakes at Tampa Bay Downs, the local prep towards the Tampa Bay Derby. The repercussions and the fallout of that race we'll evaluate now as a field of 12 went postward at the mile and a 16th trip. This race was over quarter mile in. Even though he was going fast, he never stopped. No More Time.
No More Time is still the leader. 3/4, 110 and 4. It's No More Time into the stretch. West Saratoga on the outside, right up alongside. Agate Road has made up significant ground down the far outside, is starting to steamroll home. No More Time past the 8th pole. West Saratoga, here comes Agate Road, right down the center of the course. No More Time has to make a final 16th of a mile. Agate Road 3 lengths back. It's No More Time. Agate Road is closing stoutly. No More Time. Running out of time is Agate Road. No More Time in front. No More Time wins the Sam F. Davis. Agate Road was second, long way back to West Saratoga. Legion Meadows, they photoed 3rd and 4th.
Fast fractions in the wire-to-wire win. Spread Eagle the field. Big gaps between a lot of them. The other pace presence was the horse I like, Change of Command. He just ripped a knot in him. I mean, he got beat 21 lengths in running 11th in there. So when the speed horse puts away a quality rival, a horse who had won a couple times at Gulfstream, and just draws off. I mean, very impressive win. I have no idea, though, where it really came from. I thought he ran okay in the Mucho Macho Man, but that was a race that really didn't come up all that strong. So the public got this one right somehow. He took the late money, ended up the 3-1 favorite here. Your thoughts on No More Time?
Well, he made the lead. And so anytime a horse goes gate to wire, even if they go at a pretty good clip, which he did, it's still a controlling speed front running type of trip, which doesn't always get handed to you. So, and in a race in which Agate Road turned out to be the best of the closers, and he's a grinder, he doesn't have any great turn of foot, and the buyer number, which came up very soft. I'm just not looking at this race as having any impact whatsoever down the road. Now, No More Time might catch another field that will allow him to make the running and then run well. He can do that for sure. But the rest of these are what they are. And there's going to be races for them down the road. There's always an Ohio Derby here and something else there, and a West Virginia down the road. So some of these will, earn a good purse somewhere. But if you're talking about Triple Crown races, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. I mean, even in a situation or a year in which there may be a half a dozen real horses and the rest of them are what they are, I still don't see it. And credit to No More Time for winning, and he's another one of those not this time colts that can run. But I'm not bullish on this race at all.
We saw a horse very similar to this come through Tampa a couple of years ago named King Guillermo for Juana Vila, and he ran off the screen one time, against the weaker field, a mile and 16th, and I think he lost the last 6 or 7 races of his career, never won again. So I'm not saying that that's the recipe or that's the result that we're going to see with No More Time, but he kind of feels closer to that than he does a legit Triple Crown prospect at this point. We'll see. I kept some horses from this race at the bottom end of my top 20. We'll reveal that here in just a little bit on the program because they've got some points accrued towards the Derby now. And look, they're going to get a chance, right? No More Time is going to come back probably in the Tampa Bay Derby, get every chance to get his way into Louisville. Agate Road with that late running style be interesting to see. Will they go Tampa? Will they go to the Jeff Ruby perhaps and take that turfer to the synthetic and see if they can't find maybe some easier money in that and get the mile and an 1/8 trip, right? If Agate Road comes back at the Tampa Bay Derby, it's a mile and a 16th. And since he's coming from so far off the pace, he may want the mile and an 1/8 for their best chance of earning a way into the Kentucky Derby. So maybe we'll see Agate Road in this particular spot end up back at Turfway, I would think, maybe in the Jeff Ruby is a possibility. Big disappointment for me, change of command. I thought he was more than he was. His last 2 really caught my eye down at Gulfstream, but he was nothing in this particular spot. He stopped almost like a horse who bled or had something happen. He's too good to back up 21 lengths and get beat by the horses he got beat by. Let's just see the work tab there on change of command. I got a feeling we're not going to see him for a while. If he's back quickly on the work tab, I'll be surprised. I'll be happily surprised, though, because obviously we don't want anything wrong with a horse of that quality. But, boy, you want to explain that performance away with something other than he's just not that good. Maybe I misread him, but he's going to have to be much better than that to be a factor in any of the 3-year-old stakes from this point forward. To our third topic this week on the big board, it's our Triple Crown tracker. We've been talking some of the big 3-year-olds already. We're going to continue that with the race at Golden Gate over the weekend, the El Camino Real Derby, perhaps the final edition of the El Camino Real Derby. It's Golden Gate Field set to close later this spring. Don't know if we'll continue an El Camino Real Derby at another venue, but this could be the final edition of that race. We're also going to look ahead to Fairgrounds this weekend for the Risen Star as part of the tracker. But let's go back to the victory by Endlessly in the El Camino Real Derby, the favorite for Michael McCarthy.
As they arrive at the top of the stretch, and it's Tapalo, who's homeward bound, has a lead by about 3 lengths. Endlessly, the chalk, comes on the outside, and Endlessly has a 1/16 of a mile to make up 2 lengths. And it's Tapalo with the lead close to home, but it's Endlessly, the favorite, sweeps on by for the win. Tapalo second, guy named Joe third.
The 3 Santa Anita shippers go north. They run 1, 2, 3 in there. It's McCarthy over Sadler over O'Neill. Some big barn influence there. Of course, McCarthy's gone this route before with the Preakness Birth with Rombauer a few years ago and ended up winning the Middle Jewel of the Triple Crown. Could Endlessly have the same sort of forecast?
It's not impossible. He's a long-winded colt by Oscar Performance. He did all of his previous running on grass. This was obviously all weather. McCarthy, after the race, saying he's most likely going to keep him on grass until the Preakness if he decides that he wants to go that route. But apparently he's trained him on the dirt at Santa Anita, and he's not quite as effective as his pedigree would suggest that would be the case. But I like him. I mean, this race was a mile and an 1/8. He took hold late. That track traditionally in route races favors early speed or horses that can lay fairly close to the pace. He got a decent pace to run at, but I like the way he wheeled in a horse, Tapalo, who's not bad. Especially given the trip that he got. It took a decent sort of colt to wear him down in the final furlong, and I think Endlessly is. I think let me put it this way. I don't know if he's going to end up winning the Preakness, but at this stage of his career, he's probably better than Rombauer. And given that, and given the fact that I I'm happy that Michael McCarthy is not going to get crazy with him and try to win any kind of grade 1 with him, and maybe go to Keeneland and run him in the grass there or somewhere else. I mean, maybe the Turfway race will be in the cards as well. I think he's got a chance, if he's managed properly, to win some money, serious money here.
Yeah.
And so I like him. I don't know about the Derby or anything like that, but I think he's a genuine colt, and I think he's going to pay his way.
And they've made the 3-year-old turf series around the country during the course of the entire year a lot more lucrative than it used to be. There's a lot of money to be made for these 3-year-olds on grass. And so even if they don't go the Preakness route, there's a chance, like you said, for Endlessly to have a big campaign this year. We shall see if he ends up in the middle jewel of the Triple Crown. Now, we continue our Triple Crown tracker talking about Saturday's big race at the fairgrounds. It's the Risen Star, $400,000 grade 2. They'll stretch out to 1 mile and 1/8. It's the third race of the Louisiana Derby Series. We saw the Gun Runner won by Track Phantom in December, then the Lecomte won by Track Phantom in January. He's got some company in this particular spot, but Track Phantom is back, and you see him there. That was his win in the Gun Runner, the photograph. His field of 12 has already entered for the Risen Star Stakes, of course, named for the great 1988 Belmont Stakes winner, Risen Star, the son of Secretariat. Field of 12 and some names in here you'll recognize. Honor Marie, the horse who won the Kentucky Jockey Club last year. Real Men Violin ran second in that race. Sierra Leone, the horse who ran second, a really good race against Dornoch in the Remsen Stakes. Definitely one to watch. Hall of Fame, who on the undercard for the Lecomte Stakes stole the show with a dominant performance for trainer Steve Asmussen. He'll get his stakes debut. Catching Freedom from Off the Pace, winner of the Smarty Jones for Brad Cox at Oaklawn. He's running at Fairgrounds, but that's been his home track all winter. So that was the road trip to Oaklawn. Catching Freedom gets to run out of his home stall with the race now at Fairgrounds. Resilience, a horse I like quite a bit for Bill Mott. Going to get a test in Stakes Company off a nice win. This is a good-looking group here, Jeff. A field of 12 for the Risen Star. Your early thoughts?
Well, this race isn't the Louisiana Derby, but it could pass for it.
It could be.
It could pass for a good one, too. Now, I don't know how these horses are going to develop, but as of now, there's a half a dozen in here who would have a chance to be pretty good. I'm especially enamored with Sierra Leone. I think he could be really good. I loved his race in the Remsen. I like the colt that beat him. I like the fact that Sierra Leone was 5 clear of everybody else and closing fastest of all. Chad Brown putting blinkers on. I don't know if this is an experiment or whether it was recommended that he had him, or maybe he just feels he needs them. But if the Sierra Leone that we saw back in early December shows up in this race, it's going to take a really, really good colt to beat him. And he's had some time. I like the fact that he had, 2 quick races, back-to-back races, given some time to regather himself, grow up a little bit. I just think he's a really good colt and a very, very legitimate Triple Crown type of horse. I don't know how good Hall of Fame is, but he won by 10 or in a giant number in his second start with Steve Asmussen. That was good. And he did it around 2 turns. I mean, he could be for real. Nothing wrong with Catching Freedom's form for sure. And a few others in here that obviously Track Phantom. I mean, we know he absolutely loves this track, and his numbers are rising with every start. I can't wait for this race. This is going to be, I think, the most influential Derby prep that we've seen so far. Not necessarily comparing him with Nisos quite yet, but he wins this race, but we know he's not going in the Derby. So if you're looking for a Derby type of horse, he may very well come out of this race and then maybe even into the Louisiana Derby.
Well, your appreciation for Sierra Leone isn't shared alone, because we had a draft tonight for national media members, been a part of this Triple Crown Fantasy League for about 20 plus years. And a lot of folks out of Kentucky and around the country taking part in it. The first pick in the draft tonight was Sierra Leone. That was the horse who went number 1 overall in the draft. I didn't have the number 1 overall pick. I picked 6th, and I ended up with Catching Freedom. So there are a lot of people who have interest in this race coming up this weekend at Fairgrounds who think they have future bets, Kentucky Derby future wagers this weekend, people who already have future bets on potential horses for the Derby that are coming out of this race. That's going to take us to what will be my top 20 in this week's Countdown to the Crown. To be published on Friday, countdowntothecrown.com. You can get my scouting report each and every week for the entire nation. And usually we give the top 10 on this show because it makes for a better looking graphic. But there's so many darn horses running in the big race at Fairgrounds this weekend. I want to go top 20 so we can show all of them. Those are spotlighted in the gold. I've got 7 different horses that I think are potentially top 20 types right now as of today. For the Triple Crown that are in this race. Sierra Leone, Track Phantom, Catching Freedom, Honor Marie, Hall of Fame, and Resilience. Resilience, one of the most impressive undercard winners we've seen so far this year. His 4-length win in Maiden Company last time on New Year's Day. He's got a ton of pedigree, and for Bill Mott, this is a regally bred runner, and that's towards the bottom of the top 20, of course. What will happen is this race will shuffle out, right? And it will sort out some major players. Somebody good in this race is going to run 5th or 6th, Jeff, right? And that's if they all run their race. Somebody good can run 10th or 11th in a spot like this, just like we saw with Shug's horse Change of Command, who I was so high on, ended up 11th. I mean, they can implode and go the wrong direction, but I think this race, there may be better individual horses we've seen on the trail this year than some, but there are no better races that we've seen to this point. This one really has the depth. And, you know, it reminds you a little bit of what we've seen at Fairgrounds over recent years. You know, that has really been a strong, productive prep in the last 4 or 5 years. It was kind of fool's gold for a long time, and it was in no man's land. They ran the Louisiana Derby in March, and it was kind of too far out from the Kentucky Derby. But about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they started shifting the dates around, spreading the races out. There's a good 4 or 5 week gap. They run a little bit longer than the prep on the other circuits, and it's starting to pay off. I mean, you've seen good horses, Epicenter, Mandaloon, you know, a lot of good ones have come through there, Hot Rod Charlie in recent years, and have had a lot of success in the Triple Crown. So I think this is going to be a big race, and it's going to be a telltale race on Saturday. I haven't ironed out my picks yet. I'll have those for Friday when you and I reconvene for our next podcast, which we do each and every Friday, the First Call podcast. And of course, I'll have the full write-up at countdowntothecrown.com. But there are options to go with, like Track Phantom, right? I mean, he's won the last 2 races in the series. He would be no shock to win at all. But as we look at the post position for this race, he's got to lead from the 11 hole, and he's got speed, right? And so if you're going to take a shortish price from post 11 in a race that's got some other speed about it, do you want to take the outside post? Even though you might like Track Phantom better than some other horses, it might be a bad gamble, you know, and if we're looking to gamble on this race, you're going to take all those factors into consideration when you say post odds and that sort of thing like that. Where will the value wind up in the Risen Star Stakes? So it's not just about rankings. And when we talk about the rankings, you know, you'd say, well, you're going to pick Sierra Leone on top, Track Phantom second, and Catching Freedom third, because that's the way you've got them ranked for the Kentucky Derby. But that's not the way you gamble, right? And that's a scouting report, and that's the difference between that. And when Jeff and I talk about these races and horses we look at as Kentucky Derby prospects, there might be a chance to make a gamble in a race beating those horses, and that's what you want to do as a horse player. So we've got a lot to think about between now and Friday, Jeff, and you got a lot of different options to go with in that race.
And I haven't done the race yet, as you haven't. I'll have to go back and do my video analysis.
Yep.
But the one thing that appears to jump off the page to me is there are 2 things. There is some speed in the race, but not a lot. And
right.
The 2 main speeds are both trained by the same guy.
Todd Pletcher.
So how is it going to shape out if he's like Hall of Fame to go, and then he certainly has Track Phantom, and Track Phantom is drawn outside, give him the option to stalk and go on with it. He hasn't had to do that, but I'm not so sure he couldn't do that.
Right.
I mean, and then the horse that I love is Sierra Leone, but and maybe with the blinkers on, he'll be able to be in the race, whereas before he's been dropping out of it and just using his sheer natural talent to run well. But I'd like to see him lay closer if he could, so that will eliminate the fact that the opportunity for the race shape to be against him. So, I mean, a fascinating race. And then, of course, you've got these lightly raced 3-year-olds who develop at a different rate. Some of them can come quickly and, you know, blast and turn it on a monster race. Others will gradually improve. We don't know yet. So it's just a great race. It'll go at 6:17 Central. If you want to mark that down, be sure you're near your Express Bet account or whether you want to watch it somewhere. It's late in the afternoon, but 14th race of a tremendous card. Really, really important race on the road to Kentucky.
Yeah, no question about that. For more on the Risen Star Stakes, you can check out the blog section at expressbet.com and at news.first.com, where we already have the Meet the Contenders up, where you can learn about each of the 12 horses, some stats, trends about each of the 12 runners in the Risen Star. That's already posted for Saturday. Our fourth topic this week on It's Official. Well, we're not sticking all with the 3-year-old colts. We had some fillies in a showdown this past weekend on the West Coast. Richard Mandela, Bob Baffert. We've seen them square off in some of these big races over the years, and they had another one when Kinza and Kopion went head-to-head in the Las Virgenes.
Kopion called on now, trying to close the gap. Top of the lane, Kinza maintains the lead, coming to the 8th pole. Kopion fully extended, but now 2.5 behind, and then she's a Tempest. They're coming to the 16th pole, and Kinza just keeps on rolling on the front end. And they couldn't get close to Kinza. Kinza too strong to score in the Las Virgenes. Kopion second best. She's a Tempest third in front of Nothing Like You.
No Bob Baffert in the Kentucky Derby. No Bob Baffert in the Kentucky Oaks. He can't get near Churchill Downs proper with that band. So we're not looking at the Kentucky Oaks for Kinza, maybe the Black Eyed Susan Stakes. What do you make of this showdown on the West Coast?
Well, they both were Stars of Tomorrow graduates. Kopion had won twice, which is one of the reasons why I ended up picking her. Even though in the heart of hearts, I thought Kinza probably was every bit as good and had a tactical edge on her in terms of really speed and employed that front-running trip. Although Kopion got a great ride from Pratt, he went after her into the far turn, was right there with her, and then Kinza looks over her shoulder and said, no.
Right.
You're not going to catch me. And then Kinza drew off and would have won if they'd run down to down to Monrovia. I mean, she would have won. So now Kinza's 2 for 2 off that just one very impressive sprint. Buyers in the 90s. So she's fast on figs. Now it's, again, what do you do with her? What's your goal? I mean, do you want to win the Black Eyed Susan? Do you want to go somewhere else? I mean, where do you want to go? And how much do you want to do with her to get there? I don't know. I haven't talked to Bob about that yet. But wherever she goes, she's she's a top class North American filly who's done everything that she's supposed to do here in California. And again, where do you go from here? I mean, there are other races back east. I'd love to see her at Keeneland. That would be kind of fun, don't you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, Ashland would be good. Of course, still the Santa Anita Oaks between now and then if they want to stay on the West Coast. I'm not inclined to think, though, that either one of these horses want to go very long. I don't think they want to be mile and an eighth kind of horses in the spring. That's what I'm worried about. 26-21, the final quarter there. And they visually both look to be, on the gas end. Kopion especially. The Acorn at a one-turn mile is the brilliance of these two fillies. And I think you take these two and say, how do we get to Belmont Park on Belmont or Saratoga on what are they going to run the Acorn at? Now I'm even talking, I'm thinking about the Acorn on Belmont Day, but it's going to be at Saratoga and they're not going to run it out of that chute. So I should have actually checked the stake schedule on this. Maybe the Acorn's even going to be 7/8 of a mile. No, you can't run 7 at Saratoga. I don't know what they're going to do, but a race like the Acorn would be good. The Black Eyed Susan, obviously, but not as prestigious with the Black Eyed Susan as the grade ones. So we had two nice 3-year-old fillies there. We know they're brilliant. We know they've got a ton of talent. How far they want to go, though, will be the big question mark, and we will see where they end up next. All right, our Stars of Tomorrow segment, those were two alumni. Well, we've got two new ones for you this week, and our Stars of Tomorrow always wraps up the podcast here. We've got one from New York at Aqueduct over the weekend and one on Fat Tuesday at Fairgrounds. So let's go to Aqueduct, where the opening race on Saturday was won by the Dodge Venture train, Eliminate.
3-wide move, Eliminate is right in behind these leaders. Apuro is still in that mix, and back to fourth quickly. That's Mr. B. They reach the top of the stretch. Laser Sharp, but Eliminate with all that momentum, and here comes Eliminate just rolling down the center of the racetrack. Eliminate, Laser Sharp not giving in yet. It's still Eliminate and Laser Sharp. Laser Sharp ducks down towards the inside. Eliminate is now up by 3/4 of a length inside the final 16th. Eliminate, Laser Sharp, they're well clear of the rest. Eliminate wins the opener. Eliminate wins the opener over Laser Sharp.
Eliminates a horse who've been beaten favorite a couple times, have been knocking on the door. I like when those kind finally break out and break their maiden and do it with a little bit of style. This horse could have a little bit of a future. I don't know how quickly they're going to be to try to get him into the stakes ranks. The Gotham's going to wheel back awfully fast for a horse like that. Maybe a Wood Memorial type performer. Pletcher, I think, ran a horse off 1 or 2 starts in the Wood last year and ran second. So maybe it's a horse they'll look at for the Wood Memorial.
Could be. I mean, it's owned in partnership by Spendthrift and Micropoli. So I think you have a chance to, look at those kinds of races. Mm-hmm. It was just a maiden race, but usually when I try to look for these stars of tomorrow, there's 2 qualifications. They either can be a Baffert or they can be a son of Curlin. So no Baffert in this. I couldn't find a Baffert, but I can certainly find a Curlin every day of the week if you want to. This colt was making his 4th start, but he's gradually getting faster, better. Mm-hmm. Numbers are rising. I mean, this was 6.5. Nice mover. Doesn't look like he was getting tired over a deep track. Got route written all over him and late developing written all over him. So I think he's not quite ready for graded stakes yet, but I'd sure like to find a now one as a 2 for him some way, or maybe a small stake, a confidence building stake, maybe something at Laurel or something like that. Just let him ease into it. Because whatever he does now, he's going to do better in 2 or 3 months, theoretically. And he looks like an athlete to me. So I give him a chance to develop and be a nice colt and run far. And that's why I think he's a future star. Again, I don't know how great he is or how good he's going to be, but he's got that look about him that tells me whatever he did in this race, he's going to do a lot better in the next 2 or 3.
And in Fairgrounds this week, this afternoon, about, 5-6 hours ago, as we taped this podcast, there was a horse who announced his candidacy for the sprint stakes around the country. A 3-year-old by the name of Doncho, trained by Michelle Lovell, won his opening race in style, came back in an allowance company on the special holiday Fat Tuesday card at Fairgrounds, and it was good time rolling for him. Doncho, watch this in 109 and change.
It is Doncho who's taken charge. Half mile, 45.56 seconds with Jaime Torres. Doncho leads into this final Fairgrounds furlong and has opened up a 4-5 length lead on Cats by 5, who now gains second from Bear River. Shogun be fast led, but has dropped back. It is Doncho, and Doncho was dynamite again. Doncho won by 4 from Cats by 5. Bear River third, and Honky Tonk Highway finished 4th, 109.52. Cluck Doncho.
Don't know how far it'll go. There's some options in that part of the country. You got the Bachelor Stakes at Oaklawn for 200,000-300,000 coming up later in the spring. You've got the Pat Day Mile at Churchill. Of course, Michelle Love will be based at Churchill when that meet starts up. There are some options for a horse like that who can sprint. We'll see how far they want to go, but I don't think the Son of Motown is going to go long. But I think definitely when you look at that 6 furlongs to a mile, this looks like one of the better 3-year-old sprinters in the country. We saw Valentine Candy win his 3rd stakes for Steve Asmussen at Oaklawn over the weekend. There's some pretty good 3-year-old sprinters out there beyond the cusp of the classics.
I think he could go a 1-turn mile. I mean, he wasn't getting tired and he drew off and he topped out great. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, again, this is the kind of colt that you want to protect him as long as you can. You don't go after the monsters in the division. Let him earn his way up. Yep. Let him continue to not only get his confidence, but also get, more mature, a little tighter, a little, more fit. And good things for him. I mean, that's a good colt, and he's waiting to get his chance, and he will get it sometime before the spring, I am pretty sure.
Let's take a look at our big board and wrap up this edition of It's Official. Our 5 topics this week. Maymun entered the fray with a determined and trepidatious allowance win at Santa Anita on Super Bowl Sunday. The repercussions of the Sam F. Davis Stakes. Jeff doesn't feel we've got a big impact off that race that was won front running style by No More Time. Our Triple Crown tracker took us to the El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate Fields and a preview of the big one at Fairgrounds, the best race we've seen so far on the trail this year. Coming up this weekend, our preview of the Risen Star Stakes. West Coast 3-year-old fillies went head-to-head. It was Kinza putting away Kopion in the stretch, Bob Baffert over Richard Mandela in that one. We'll see where they end up in the spring trail. And our stars of tomorrow: Eliminate for Todd Pletcher, the Curlin colt in New York. And at Fairgrounds today, it was Doncho in 109 and change for Michelle Lovell, a sprinter to keep your eyes on. Those are the 5 topics that are now official, because because Jeff Siegel and I said so. That's the way we play the game. And we'll do it all again in 1 week's time when we recap, which should be a really big race. The Risen Star on Saturday and a full stakes allotment of races at Fairgrounds as well. Also a big day at Laurel Park, the Winter Sprint Fest. This is like Maryland Million Days big, Preakness Days big, and then this President's Day weekend at Laurel has always been such a big one with the General George Stakes and the Barbara Fritchie amongst 4 stakes races on the card. Really looking forward to that one at Laurel. Knock on wood, we get good weather. Jeff, I had to move 13 inches of snow, and it was the heavy stuff today in the Mid-Atlantic. It was not good. The back is sore. I'm feeling it. So hopefully Laurel gets away from any bad weather this weekend and gets that big Winter Sprint Fest card in, because it should be a good one there.
I got a question for you. When you get snow, do you lose your power?
No.
Oh, because we were like 65 degrees on a cloud in the sky. I was in the dark all day. I mean, literally for 9 hours, no power, no electricity. I mean,
you might have had it. I was breaking my back out with the snow today, and you might have had it worse than I did, actually.
I think I did, because I couldn't do anything. Have you ever been without electricity and you haven't been able to get on the internet or tweet or anything? I mean, it's like you know. So anyway,
you'll make it, my friend. I mean, go 12 hours without tweeting. You're okay. You'll
but it's it's like I don't drink, but I can imagine if I did and didn't have some liquor, I would.
There's still time, Jeff. There's still time.
No, I do not drink. I don't even like root beer. So there you have it. I'm pretty safe when it comes to that. But anyway, but we got. Thank you for putting the lights on so we can get our show done. Didn't want to have to wait another day for that, because we have to look forward to this weekend. I mean, last week was last week. Now we've got some absolutely sensational racing this week. Holiday racing here out in Santa Anita on Monday. So 5 days straight, which is unusual.
Yeah.
And then a great, fantastic series of races at Fairgrounds that I just can't wait to see.
We will recap it all next week, but between now and then, be sure to check back on Friday for the First Call podcast, when Jeff and I will take 8 of those major stakes around the country and handicap them for you. On behalf of everybody with First and my partner, Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great week, and thanks for staying up late with us tonight. If you're watching this in the replays, it's still early to you then. Have a great night.